All right, so we're gonna flip it to the back. We're gonna flip it to the back. And raising your hand, and my friends at home, I can't see you guys because I'm trying to record this, but my friends in class, you guys are gonna be the ones that are answering for me. So what's our first step? What's the first step to the scientific method, Trey? Ask a question. Ask a question. So this is the same thing as identifying a problem. So the problem might be, why does my soda explode once it's shaken, right? That's a good one. Or why do I burp after eating or drinking something carbonated? Also a good question. I don't know why I'm very soda focused today. What's our second step? What's our second step? Alex, we have to do something before we make a hypothesis. Remember, a hypothesis is an educated guess. What makes it educated? Let's try again. I have to make an inference, and I make an inference by doing what first with my five senses? Lucas. Making observations. So I call this gathering information. So this is where like I make observations. So I may say like, I notice that every time I drink soda, I burp, right? When I drink water, I don't burp. Those are observations. I use my five senses, things I can see, smell, hear, taste, touch, and feel, right? Now, back to what Alex was saying. What's step three? What's step three? Now I form my hypothesis. So this is where I use those observations to infer or predict. This is what makes my guess educated. If I didn't make observations, it would just be a guess. It wouldn't be an educated guess. So I've asked my question, I've gathered information, I've formed my hypothesis. Are we done? No, because there's still some more lines. So clearly we're not done. Fiona, what's the next step? Yes, I test my hypothesis. So this is where like I create and perform my experiment. And we'll get into what that means in terms of like the variables and all of that stuff, but we got to get our method down first. So we can ask a question, gather information. We can form a hypothesis. Welcome to my lab. We can test the hypothesis. Now what do? We did our experiment. What do? Trey?
Gather information. No, collect data.
So when we're collecting our data, right? But what do we do with our data?
Graph, chart the data.
All right, we graph it, we chart it, but what do we have to do with the data? We're looking at it. Amiri? Analyze it, right? So we've got our data, it's graphed, which is awesome because it gives us good visuals. So we're gonna draw conclusions about our data or analyze it. That's all right. There's a reason I'm writing it like this. So this would be if I'm confirming or rejecting my hypothesis. And I'm just going to put HYP to abbreviate. If my friends that are mobile are trying to chat with me, I won't be able to see it until I stop sharing the screen. So You can text me on Google Voice if you need to. If there's any questions, I'll have it open, okay? All right. So I've got my data. Now what? It's all for me, right? Fiona. So I've drawn my conclusions, but what do I do with them? I've got all this data. Do I keep it to myself?
Yep.
So what do I do with it?
Share your conclusions.
I share it. I call this reporting results. So I may share out the more, so I confirm my hypothesis that the more I drink soda, the more I'm gonna burp. So another scientist may be like, I don't like that. I want to develop a soda that doesn't make you burp. And then the scientific method starts over, right? So they design a new experiment and maybe create new things as a result of my experiment. Does that make sense? So my big thing is that other scientists can build on it and they can replicate it. If another scientist were to do my experiment, they should be able to follow the instructions exactly and get similar results. If they don't get similar results, that means that something went wrong with them or with me, right? But there's one more line. Why might there be one more line? Alex. Conclusion. Do we do our experiment one time or more than once?
More than one.
More than once. So I always say repeat.
But that's a lot of chicken sandwiches going to waste.
Not going to waste. True. I'll give it to my dogs.
You want your dogs?
Dogs actually, they have the cleanest mouths. Their mouths regenerate every 30 seconds. The cells in their mouth regenerate so that like it's.
Have you ever realized that dogs eat stuff off the floor?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Some dogs. Well, I'm not going to go into that, but there is a condition where dogs eat other things like their own waste. So yeah.
Oh, we should test
Oh,
that.
yeah.
See if we can get those little things of jelly like they did to the chicken sandwich and then swab the dog's mouth and then swab it.
I actually have the Petri dishes and we have a microscope, so we would be able to test that. I got to see if I can get the swabs.
I'll do that.
So here's the thing with repeating it. The reason I say a minimum of 3 times, this is where that word consistent comes from. We want our results to be consistent. We want them to be around the same every time. That shows that I was doing it right. At any point, if your results are a bit off, you can
Revisit your hypothesis and modify your experiment.
Yep. So revisit your hypothesis. I'll abbreviate. And modify. That means to change. Am I going to change my data? No, you can never change your data. If you earn something on a test, you earn an 85 on a test, you can't write like 95 on there, right? It doesn't change what goes in the grade book. I don't care what you write on your paper, it's still an 85, right? You're going to redo the test to give you a different result, hopefully. When you make an observation, what are you doing? Raising your hand. Well, you're not raising your hand when you're making an observation, but what are you doing when you make observations? I've got some people I'm about to call on because they haven't participated. Amelia. Using your 5 senses. So a lot of people have confused observations and inferences. If I say the hand sanitizer is green, that's an observation, right? I'm using my eyes. Now, if I say the hand sanitizer, I think the hand sanitizer doesn't work as well because it's green. That's not an observation, right? That's me, that's an inference. It's also an opinion. Does that make sense? Or I could say, I've noticed or I see that all of my students in Cambridge wear black shirts. Observation, right? My inference would be that your uniform is different, right? I wouldn't know that unless I saw another uniform. So unless I can directly see, smell, taste, touch, hear, feel, it's not an observation. Got it? We'll practice that a little bit later next week. So I've got two different kinds of observations. I've got a qualitative that begins with, or that has an L in it, and a quantitative that has an N. There's a reason I did this. What does the qualitative observations, what does that mean? Trey?
It means characteristics of something.
Yeah, we're talking about qualities. I put an L because we use letters to describe it, like words, right? What do we use for quantitative that the N would stand for? Samantha? Numbers, right. So that's why I have the N, because numbers, right? Helps us remember quantity. How many in quantity are you buying on Amazon, right? 1,000 things. All of the things. So these are numbers. Really quick, I want you to turn to the closest person next to you and give one example of each. One example of each. Turn to the person next to you and give one example of each, which means I should hear you talking to each other. I should hear you talking to each other. All right, ojos. Awesome. Somebody give me one that you shared, or that was shared with you. Savannah.
Like if there were like flowers, quantitative would be like how many there were.
Right. So when I use observations, I always started with sense words. So, like, I see, right? That's my sense word. 2 flowers. What would be a qualitative about those flowers? So I see 2 flowers. But what would be a quality about those flowers that's not using numbers? Samantha. Perfect. So I could say, I see the flowers have long stems. Perfect. Let's do a different one that's not sight, though. Let's think about observations that aren't sight. So give me a quantitative one that is not sight. Sam.
I can feel that there's 2 highlighters.
Good. I feel 2 highlighters. Now, I used to do this thing where I had mystery bags around the room filled with a bunch of random objects. Like one time I would put like spaghetti noodles in there that were cooked, and I'd have like oranges, stuff that felt like really gross, right? And you would have to go around. I had like coffee grinds, and you'd have to go around and smell and listen and feel what was in the bags to make observations, and then infer using those observations what was in the bag, right? So a lot of people thought like the mandarin, the oranges were eyeballs or something like that. But because we can't touch stuff, we won't be able to do that activity. but you can definitely do it at home and practice it at home. Especially think of like some really weird stuff like gummy worms and try to creep your parents out. Tell them, look what I learned in science. Let's make quantitative observations. Tell me what you feel. How many things are in there, right?
Can I use those?
if your parents won't get mad at you. What would be a qualitative observation? That's not, it doesn't have to do with the highlighters. What would be a qualitative observation that has to do with something other than sight? I want someone other than Trey because he's been on fire today in a good way. Ariel? I can smell perfume. Well, how do I know if it's perfume unless I saw it? So let's use a descriptive word about the perfume. I smell something sweet. You could say sweet, right? Or something strong, right? But I wouldn't know if it was perfume unless I saw the bottle myself. And that would be a different kind of observation. Do you see what I'm saying? Yes.
Oh, wait, we're doing qualitative or
Qualitative.
quantitative? Like, I feel something like squishy.
I feel something squishy. Good. What could we infer that squishy thing might be? Slime or bouncy ball. Awesome. Sam.
I felt the rough cement.
Okay. So we might not know if it was cement unless we saw it. So we can say, I feel something rough. My inference is that it's cement. Do you see what I'm saying? It's hard to make that boundary because we already know so much. But unless I directly see the cement and feel it, I won't be able to guess it, or it won't be an inference. If my eyes were closed and I felt it, I'd say I feel something rough and bumpy. I feel something cold. My inference is that it's cement. Do you see the difference? Okay. Yes, love? I feel something fuzzy. What could I infer that would be? I infer that the fuzzy thing is a rug. Yes?
I taste something sweet.
I taste something sweet. What's my inference about what that sweet thing is?
It could be like candy.
It could be candy. Do we see the difference? Okay. Last one.
I hear something loud and obnoxious.
I hear something loud and obnoxious. I infer that it's Miss Burley, right? Is that what you were going to say? An elephant? Also Miss Burley. So, all right, thumbs up if we're done with that first back page. I can see my friends at home again. I had to figure out how to do that. Are we doing okay so far? Awesome. Go ahead and flip it. This back page is like the same thing as this page, so we won't need to do the back page. All right, so let's do this. If you want to do the back page as a practice, like if you want to do this as like an extra homework assignment to help you, feel free.
You have to.
I would suggest that you should, just for practice. Because remember, I see you every other day. So I don't see you every day. We're not practicing science every day. All right, let's see if we can, without looking at our previous page, list the steps of the scientific method in order. What's our first one? We can,
Ask a question.
without looking, yes, ask a question. I wish I could show you guys my song, but it's on YouTube and it's blocked right now. But as soon as it's unblocked,
Why don't you look it up on your phone and you do the street job?
because it's too long for that. Yeah, it's a full song. Second, so we asked our question. Now we have to do what so we can make an educated guess. We're not calling out. We're not calling out Jayla. Observe, right? So gather information. And then what? After this, I'm going to let you do the rest by yourselves or with a friend. So let's finish this first 7. Catherine, what do we do after we've gathered our information? Beautiful. We form a hypothesis. And then, who have I not heard from today? Audrey. What do I do next, baby? Yeah, the fun part, right? Then I test my hypothesis. Maybe I'll rap the song in real life instead of just playing the music video. Because it will get stuck in your head. How many of you have had a sibling that has been in my class before that has sang that song because I gave them the homework assignment to go annoy you with it? Oh, absolutely. I'm glad to know that she followed instructions. All right, so we tested our hypothesis. We did it multiple times, right? What's next, Fiona? We draw conclusions. Awesome. So my conclusions are drawn. I've looked at my data. I've analyzed it. Now I keep it all to myself. Just kidding. What do, Amelia? I share it with other people. That way they can repeat it or expand on it. And then I say repeat at the end. Now, oops. I flipped the way this was stapled. So actually do me a favor. I do want this part done because this part was supposed to be first. I stapled it backwards. So what I want you guys to do when you have the rest of the class to do it, which is about 10 minutes, and then whatever is at home, go ahead and continue working on this. You can work with somebody. You can talk with somebody to do it, and we'll check it on Friday. Solid? My friends at home, same goes for you. You guys can either work together or work by yourselves, and we'll check the rest together on Friday. Yes, Ava?
Do breakout rooms and like get into partners?
Yeah, let me see. I have to figure out how to do that, but let me get back. Let me see if I can do it. All right. God, somebody, oh, hold on one second. Let's do you guys want to do groups of 4 or groups of 2? 2 or 4, hold them up. 2, let's do 2, all right. Oh, I'm in a room, so somebody's partnered with me. That's not gonna work. Ava, we're practice. Let's go practice. And it shouldn't take you longer than 15 minutes. I will never give you something that takes longer than 15 minutes at home. I expect you to value my time at home. I value yours too, okay? And you have until Friday. So you have tonight or tomorrow. You know? We'll make sure remember, we're doing the front and the back, so the whole packet will be done. I'm sorry I confused you. We're doing the whole thing. We're doing no, just on the front page. Yeah, just on the front page. The Arts Market, the one under the bridge? Yeah, I go probably about once a month.
I went for the first time.
You did?
That's the, I think I wore it here.